Yuki was an ordinary young man attending an elite school where every girl possessed unique powers granted by eating a special fruit known as the peach fruit. However, unfortunately for the boys, the power of the peach fruit was something they could never wield. One evening, after searching for a part-time job, Yuki was on his way home when a strange portal suddenly appeared before him. Before he could react, he was pulled in, transported to a mysterious dimension known as the Demon City. Confused and trying to grasp the situation, Yuki checked the latest news about this strange world when, out of nowhere, a bizarre monster lunged at him. Just as he was about to be attacked, a stunning girl named Kyuka appeared, swiftly rescuing him from the creature's deadly assault. Without wasting a second, she ordered Yuki to take cover and follow her. Not long after, Kyuka's subordinates arrived, joining the battle against the horde of monsters. Amid the chaos, one of them alerted Kyuka that a group of young children was in danger nearby. Without hesitation, Kyuka's squad unleashed their peach fruit powers, effortlessly eliminating the monsters and rescuing those trapped in the crossfire. After the battle, Kyuka took a moment to explain the harsh reality of Demon City to Yuki. She laid down one crucial rule. If he ever saw monsters approaching, he had only one job: run as far as possible and wait for the demon extermination squad to arrive. However, just as they were talking, the two spotted a little girl surrounded by monsters in the distance. Without hesitation, Kyuka rushed to her aid, but the sheer number of enemies proved overwhelming. Realizing she had no other choice, Kyuka activated her peach fruit ability, a power that allowed her to turn those around her into her personal combat slaves. To Yuki's shock, he suddenly transformed into a battle slave under Kyuka's command. His body changed, taking on a monstrous hybrid form, granting him the strength to tear through the monsters with ease. Yet, the battle was far from over. The defeated monsters began merging into a colossal entity, far stronger than anything they had faced before. Sensing the danger, Kyuka ordered her subordinates to retreat. She and Yuki would take on this final monster themselves. Witnessing how well they fought together, Kyuka made a bold decision. She would keep Yuki as both her combat slave and her partner in battle, ensuring that together they would annihilate every last demon that stood in their way. Out of nowhere, Kyuka suddenly invited Yuki to do some advanced teamwork. Turns out, after using her combat slave ability, Kyuka had to pay a price, and that price was Yuki himself. Comment below if you'd volunteer to be Kyuka's combat slave. Kyuka then tried to convince Yuki to help her defeat the demon monsters. If they didn't, there was a high chance those creatures would invade the real world as well. Since Yuki had been failing to land a part-time job anyway, he decided to join Kyuka on the spot. Without wasting time, Kyuka took Yuki to her elite demon extermination squad base, known as Division 7. Upon arrival, they were greeted by three girls, Shu, Himari, and Nei. However, instead of becoming an official demon exterminator, Yuki was only assigned as Kyuka's assistant in battle. But if that's what it took to fight these monsters, he was willing to accept the role. On his first day, while Yuki was cleaning the outer area of the base, a monster suddenly appeared and tried to attack him. Nei quickly intervened, assuring Yuki that their base was heavily shielded and that no demon should be able to breach it. Soon after, Himari arrived, voicing her disapproval of Yuki staying at their base. She even added that if he was going to live there, he'd better serve them well. However, everyone's opinion quickly changed the moment they tasted Yuki's cooking. Shocked by how delicious it was, they were momentarily distracted from their complaints. But Yuki, not wanting to be taken advantage of, firmly stated that his real goal was to fight demons, not just be their personal chef. Kyuka made it clear that he would only be allowed to fight when the time was right, and since he had already committed to joining their squad, Yuki had no choice but to follow her orders. Later that day, while cleaning the bathhouse, Yuki accidentally stumbled upon Himari in the hot springs. Just as he was panicking, Shu appeared, and, instead of helping, took a picture of him in the act. With a smug grin, Shu declared that she now had leverage over Yuki. Either he became her personal servant, or she would send the photo straight to Kyuka. And just like that, Yuki found himself at Shu's mercy, forced to clean her ridiculously messy room. Meanwhile, as Yuki watched Kyuka and Himari train, Nei approached him with new orders. Yuki and Shu were to stay behind and guard the base while the division leaders attended an important meeting. That day, Yuki had no choice but to obey every ridiculous task Shu threw at him. However, in a surprising twist, Shu admitted that this was the first time she had ever been physically close to a guy, having come from an all-girls school. Just as Shu was about to enjoy her newfound entertainment, a sudden attack on the base forced them into action. Without hesitation, Shu activated her size-enhancing ability and charged at the attacking demon. Unfortunately, underestimating the monster proved to be a mistake, and she was quickly overwhelmed. Seeing Shu struggling, Yuki came up with a desperate plan. He would try to forcefully awaken his own power, using objects that had been in contact with Kyuka. And sure enough, by using a few of Kyuka's belongings, Yuki was able to tap into a fraction of her power. With his newfound strength, he swiftly defeated the demon. But using Kyuka's ability came with a painful price, one that Kyuka herself would soon collect. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, another division of demon exterminators was under attack by a humanoid demon. The next day, Kyuka decided that Yuki deserved a break after all the battles he had faced. For the first time, she wore normal clothes instead of her usual combat gear, leaving Yuki flustered by how stunning she looked. But Kyuka's true reason for taking Yuki out wasn't just to relax. She wanted to visit the graves of her fallen family members, who had been slaughtered by a one-horned demon years ago. With a determined look, she vowed to avenge them. As they were about to leave, Yuki suddenly stopped Kyuka and insisted on taking her to the best ice cream shop in town. Sitting there with their frozen treats, Yuki finally opened up about his past. Years ago, he had lost his older sister to one of Demon City's devastating attacks. In reality, the reason he joined Kyuka's squad wasn't just to fight demons. It was to search for his sister, who might still be trapped in the demon-infested city. However, just as they started to enjoy their ice cream, an emergency siren blared through the city, signaling an incoming demon attack. Without hesitation, Kyuka grabbed Yuki's arm and they rushed back to the base, preparing for the battle ahead. But while they were gathered in the main hall, Nei announced that the enemy they were about to face was far greater in number than any they had encountered before. Yet, unfazed by the looming threat, Kyuka immediately ordered her squad to prepare for battle. Without wasting time, they tracked down the enemy's location and arrived at the monster's nest. However, just as they were about to engage, a one-horned demon and a humanoid demon suddenly appeared. Recognizing them instantly, Kyuka launched a furious attack, determined to avenge her family's past suffering at their hands. But these demons were no pushovers. Even with Kyuka and her squad fighting at full strength, they were unable to take them down. The difference in power was overwhelming, and before long, Yuki was captured. Strangely enough, instead of attacking him, the demon hesitated upon hearing his voice. And just like that, both demons vanished without a trace. Back at headquarters, as Yuki was repaying Kyuka through some advanced teamwork, he couldn't shake the eerie familiarity of the demon's face and voice. It was almost identical to his missing sisters. He recalled how, instead of harming him, the demon had let him go and disappeared. But Kyuka immediately dismissed the idea, stating that no human had ever turned into a demon before. Despite her words, Yuki couldn't forget the encounter and the unsettling resemblance. Meanwhile, the two demons, Neon and Coco, were discussing the recent battle. It was then revealed that the one-horned demon who had attacked Kyuka was named Aoba, who, as it turned out, was actually Yuki's long-lost sister. On another front, Kyuka's division received unexpected visitors. Tenka, the leader of Division 6, and her comrade Yachiho, who also happened to be Himari's older sister. Their arrival wasn't just a casual visit. They were there to discuss the emergence of humanoid demons, an advanced variant that was far stronger than ordinary demon monsters. Given the severity of the situation, Tenka proposed an alliance between their divisions to defeat this new threat. However, instead of focusing on the mission, Yachiho took the opportunity to mock her younger sister, saying that Himari should just give up on being a demon slayer altogether. After all, in a previous battle, Himari had passed out just from fighting a low-level monster. Outraged by the insult toward her subordinate, Kyuka challenged Division 6 to a duel between slayers. Never one to back down, Tenka eagerly accepted the challenge from Kyuka, the leader of Division 7. After Division 6 left, a frustrated Himari begged Kyuka to lend her some of her power. But before beginning her intense training for the upcoming match, they all took a break to enjoy some ramen made by Yuki, because of course you can't train on an empty stomach. With their energy replenished, training officially began. Himari explained her unique ability. She could copy someone's peach fruit powers. And in an unexpected twist, by mimicking Kyuka's slave ability, Himari was able to transform Yuki into a humanoid monster, albeit a different form than before. This version of Yuki had enhanced speed, but slightly weaker destructive power. After successfully taking down several training dummies, it was time for Himari to face the inevitable cost of using Kyuka's ability. She had to repay Yuki in the form of some advanced teamwork. On their way back from training, Himari finally opened up about her past. As a child, she had been weak and constantly sick, leading her entire family to treat her as a burden. Determined to prove them wrong, she joined the Demon Extermination Force, vowing to show everyone that she was stronger than they ever believed. Hearing that, Yuki felt bad for Himari and decided to help her win the upcoming duel against her own sister. The next day, Himari and Yuki resumed their training as usual. But this time, Himari had one goal in mind: creating the ultimate finishing move to defeat Yachiho. At first, things weren't looking great. The technique they were trying to develop was insanely difficult. But after countless failed attempts, Yuki and Himari finally pulled it off. Their long-awaited ultimate attack was complete. Of course, after such intense training, the reward Yuki demanded in return had to be just as intense as their advanced teamwork from before. You already know what that means. But let's keep it private. Days of training flew by, and before they knew it, Duel Day had arrived. The rules were simple. Every match would take place inside a special barrier, preventing outside interference. For the first round, Himari had to face off against her own sister, Yachiho. And from the very start, both of them went all out, unleashing their strongest attacks to end the fight in one move. Too bad it wasn't that easy. Using her time manipulation abilities, Yachiho effortlessly rewound time, dodging every attack as if they had never happened. No matter how fast Yuki moved, no matter how precise Himari's strikes were, Yachiho always had the ultimate counter. Just rewind time and avoid everything. And if that wasn't bad enough, she could also freeze time completely, giving her the perfect opportunity to land devastating blows on Yuki and Himari. With no way to counter Yachiho's power, the fight was looking hopeless. Yuki was about to go down, and Himari was on the verge of collapse. But Yuki refused to give up. Struggling to his feet, he shouted, "Himari, your fight isn't over yet!" Something inside Himari ignited. She was done running, she was done losing. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore, she had to prove that she wasn't weak. With renewed determination, she and Yuki executed their final strategy. Yuki moved at lightning speed, disrupting Yachiho's vision with unpredictable movements. As Yachiho prepared to finish Himari off with her time-freezing technique, she failed to notice one crucial detail. Himari had already moved behind her, and with one decisive strike, it was over. Himari and Yuki won the first round. But of course, victory came at a cost. After pushing herself beyond her limits and using Yuki's and Kyuka's powers excessively, Himari now owed Yuki another advanced teamwork session. And Yuki wasn't about to let her forget it. We all know what that means, but let's not talk about it. With that, the first match concluded, and it was time for round 2. This time, Shu would face off against Tenka's subordinate, Sahara. Before stepping into the barrier, Shu leaned toward Yuki and whispered, "If I win this fight, I get the same reward you gave Kyuka and Himari." Yuki just sighed. Shu wasn't even hiding her true intentions at this point. As soon as the match began, Shu wasted no time using her body manipulation ability, attempting to end the fight in an instant. Unfortunately, Sahara wasn't that easy to take down. With an intense burst of power, Sahara transformed into something straight out of a Dragon Ball episode. Her hair didn't turn golden, but the energy radiating off her was very much Super Saiyan level. Her strength, durability, and speed skyrocketed, making her an absolute nightmare to fight. Despite the massive difference in size, Sahara completely overpowered Shu, leaving her struggling to keep up. Refusing to lose in front of Yuki, Shu decided to go all out, activating her full-sized form to counter Sahara's monstrous strength. She wasn't about to let this fight end without securing her reward. But even after taking Shu's strongest attacks head-on, Sahara just kept standing back up, barely phased. And then, with one earth-shattering punch, it was over. Shu had lost. Crushed both physically and emotionally, Shu quietly walked back to her room, sulking. No reward for her today. Shu was feeling down, frustrated with her own abilities. Noticing this, Yuki, ever the caring one, decided to comfort her. But the moment he approached, Shu took the chance to make a sudden request, telling him to close his eyes. The next thing he knew, Yuki was staring at something so shocking that his brain practically short-circuited. Meanwhile, Nei was on lookout duty when she accidentally spotted two demon girls watching them from a distance. Before she could react, a heavily armored demon appeared, effortlessly shattering their protective barrier. With enemies closing in, Kyuka wasted no time, ordering everyone to work together to take them down. In the middle of the chaos, Himari was nearly struck by an incoming attack, but Yachiho swiftly intervened, saving her younger sister just in time. As the number of enemies kept increasing, Himari came up with an unconventional idea. She and Kyuka would ride on Yuki's back. And surprisingly, this weird strategy actually worked. By carrying both of them, Yuki gained a fusion of their powers, making him stronger than ever. On another side of the battlefield, Yachiho was struggling against the strange demon, and just as she was about to be taken down, Tenka arrived. With a casual announcement, she declared that she had already wiped out the entire monster army brought by the armored demon. That was when her true strength as the captain of Division 6 was revealed. She could create teleportation portals, making her movements impossible to predict. Even after being hit with a devastating final attack from the enemy, she still survived. Then, with an overwhelming show of power, she opened a black hole and sucked the demon straight into it. Seeing Tenka's insane abilities, Yuki and the rest of Kyuka's subordinates could only stand there in stunned silence. The battle was over. After everything settled, Himari took a moment to thank Yachiho for saving her earlier. But just when Yuki thought he could relax, he was suddenly rewarded by both Himari and Kyuka at the same time. Despite the brief peace, Yuki couldn't shake off the image of that demon from his mind. Something about her was unsettlingly familiar. Her face looked just like Yuki's older sister. The next day, Division 7 made plans to visit Tenka's base for a strategy meeting. Wanting to be helpful, Yuki took it upon himself to clean up a few areas, but he was caught off guard by how ridiculously neat and organized Tenka's base was compared to others. When he went to check Yachiho's room, he accidentally stumbled upon something even more shocking: hundreds of photos of Himari plastered all over the walls. Later that evening, after washing some towels with Sahara, Yuki happened to see Himari awkwardly trying to bond with Yachiho. Clearly, her pride was getting in the way. Seeing this, Yuki gave her a push, telling her to just start talking. After all, despite Yachiho's sharp tongue and intimidating aura, she deeply cared about Himari. Meanwhile, in another location, the armored demon Tenka had defeated was still alive, thanks to a comrade with teleportation abilities. And now, they were already plotting their next move. Back at the meeting, Tenka suddenly made an unexpected demand. She wanted Yuki. Bored out of her mind, she decided she needed a guy around to entertain her. As if that wasn't crazy enough, she even offered Kyuka a deal. If Kyuka handed Yuki over, Tenka would help her rise to the rank of commander as fast as possible. Kyuka, of course, flat out refused, making it clear that she would earn her position through her own strength. As they were heading back to Division 7's base, Kyuka casually mentioned that Tenka seemed very serious about wanting Yuki as her partner. And sure enough, that night when Yuki was about to sleep, Tenka showed up, ready to mess with him. Things were about to escalate until Shu suddenly barged in and shut the whole thing down. With her plan ruined, Tenka had no choice but to apologize and return to her own base. The next day, Kyuka announced a new experiment. She wanted to test how Yuki's power would change depending on who was riding him. First, Nei hopped on, and Yuki's instincts sharpened drastically, making him react faster than ever. Not wanting to be outdone, Shu tried next. But instead of gaining an advantage, Yuki's strength increased at the cost of his speed, making him significantly slower. After observing the results, Kyuka concluded that this combination was pretty much useless in a real fight. The next morning, Yuki was caught off guard when he realized that Nei still attended school like a regular elementary student. Seeing this, Yuki, ever the kind-hearted guy, decided to walk her to school. As they crossed a bridge, Nei suddenly opened up about her reason for becoming a demon exterminator. She was searching for her parents, who had gone missing in the demon city. It turned out that Nei's special vision ability was a manifestation of her deep longing to find them, allowing her to see far beyond what normal humans could. Upon returning to the base, Yuki found Tenka visiting once again to discuss their strategy against the humanoid demons. However, before they could get far into the conversation, several demons appeared outside, launching yet another attack on Kyuka's base. Annoyed by their persistence, Kyuka wasted no time unleashing her full strength to wipe them out. Meanwhile, Tenka, watching Yuki fight, became even more intrigued by his abilities, and, oddly enough, even more attracted to him. The next day, after their usual training session, Yuki and Kyuka were once again interrupted by Tenka, who had clearly come back just to tease Yuki. But amidst her playful antics, she suddenly asked him about the older sister he often mentioned. At that moment, Yuki finally shared a piece of his past. His sister, Aoba, had always protected him from bullies when they were kids. However, one day, she mysteriously disappeared during the Demon City incident. Hearing this story, everyone became even more curious about Aoba's fate. Later that evening, just as Tenka left, Nei accidentally spotted someone being chased by a group of demons. Without hesitation, Himari and Shu rushed to rescue the girl. However, the moment they attempted to save her, they realized too late that it was all a trap. The demons had staged the entire scene to lure them in. Seeing that Himari and Shu were now in danger, Kyuka quickly ordered Yuki to prepare for battle. But something strange happened. When Yuki moved to attack one of the demons, it didn't fight back. As it turned out, the real reason behind this sudden attack on Kyuka's base was to capture Yuki and take him away. With Yuki now in their grasp, Kyuka vowed to take him back, no matter what. Meanwhile, when Yuki regained consciousness, he was shocked to find that one of the demons, Koko, was actually healing his wounds. But the biggest surprise came when he learned the identity of the demon who had attacked him and Kyuka before. It was none other than his long-lost sister, Aoba. Aoba wasted no time telling Yuki to get ready. She had something important to show him. She explained that every being in this place was once human but had been transformed into demons. However, despite their monstrous appearances, their hearts remained human. Yuki argued that they should reveal the truth to the demon extermination forces to prevent further conflict. But Aoba and her allies had no interest in negotiating with those who had long hunted them down. Instead, she took Yuki on a walk through their settlement, reminiscing about their childhood and the life she once had. To help Yuki understand their situation, Neon, one of Aoba's comrades, shared her own story. She was once a human, working as a model, until the Demon City phenomenon pulled her into its depths. Struggling to survive, she consumed a mysterious peach, which transformed her into a demon. If that wasn't enough, she was later captured and subjected to cruel experiments by the leaders of the extermination forces. Because of this, Neon, Aoba, and Koko had one goal: to rescue their captured allies and expose the corruption within the demon extermination forces. On top of that, Aoba claimed they were close to finding a way to turn back into humans on their own. Meanwhile, Kyuka had no intention of sitting back. She sought help from Division 6 to plan a rescue mission. Since Yuki had temporarily reverted to his human form, Kyuka could sense his body instinctively calling for the energy he needed. After a long search, they finally arrived at Aoba's base, ready for battle. As the fight erupted, Tenka used her teleportation abilities to locate Yuki in no time, grabbing him and preparing to escape. But before they could leave, Aoba attacked. Reacting instantly, Yuki blocked her strike, refusing to let this battle spiral further out of control. He pleaded with both sides, hoping to start a negotiation. If they could hear Aoba's story, maybe, just maybe, they could understand one another. However, Aoba wasn't interested in talking. She restrained Yuki, rejecting the idea of peace entirely. With that, the battle escalated into an all-out war. Kyuka faced off against a one-horned demon, the very same monster that had destroyed her childhood village. Meanwhile, Tenka found herself up against a demon possessing an overwhelming number of abilities. Meanwhile, Tenka and Kyuka's subordinates had successfully taken down Aoba's two allies, using an impressive combination of teamwork and strategy. Back to Tenka, she was now struggling against Aoba, whose incredible speed made her nearly untouchable. Realizing she needed to end the fight in a single, decisive move, Tenka carefully observed Aoba's movements, looking for an opening. The moment she spotted one, she used her portal ability to switch places with a nearby monster. Having analyzed Aoba's attacks up to this point, Tenka prepared to unleash her ultimate technique. However, just as she was about to strike, Tenka abruptly halted her attack for no clear reason. That hesitation cost her dearly. Aoba retaliated with a devastating blow, sending Tenka crashing to the ground. But the reason Tenka had stopped became clear. She couldn't bring herself to hurt Aoba in front of Yuki, knowing it would break his heart. Hearing this, Aoba's expression softened. Moved by Tenka's words, she decided to stop fighting. But before anyone could breathe a sigh of relief, a serpent demon suddenly appeared, capturing Aoba's two allies. It turned out that Aoba and the demon who had previously attacked Kyuka's base were not the same. Before anyone could react, the serpent demon used its venomous powers to send the one-horned monster into a berserk frenzy. As the rampaging creature lunged at Aoba, Yuki immediately stepped in, blocking the attack and shielding everyone from harm. Kyuka, who had long harbored a deep grudge against the one-horned monster for what it had done to her in the past, saw this as her chance for vengeance. She and Yuki, using the techniques they had trained so hard to perfect, launched an all-out assault on the rampaging beast. However, despite their relentless attacks, the monster suddenly evolved into an even stronger form. Even so, Yuki and Kyuka refused to back down. Through sheer determination and a perfectly executed combination attack, they finally managed to bring the beast down once and for all. With the battle over, Kyuka turned to Aoba and proposed an alliance. She urged her to seek protection from the Demon Slayer forces and expose the corruption of their higher-ups. However, Aoba refused. She couldn't abandon her responsibility to protect the others who were still out there, living in the shadows. Understanding her conviction, Kyuka made a promise. One day, she would rise to the rank of Demon Slayer Commander, ensuring that Aoba's people who were not truly evil would no longer be hunted. The next morning, Yuki woke up with a new sense of determination. He had made up his mind. He would do everything in his power to help Kyuka become the commander she aspired to be. If she could lead the Demon Slayers, then maybe, just maybe, she could one day help Aoba and her people reclaim their humanity. That's it for this recap. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next adventure. Got any thoughts or theories? Drop them in the comments. See you in the next recap, only on Dem Recaps.